Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session, another time with Light the Torch today. Today, we will be welcoming a deeply sacred edition of our Light the Torch ceremony because we are honoring the release of Journey of My Soul, A Path to Self Discovery and Empowerment by Jamie O'Neill, a soul stirring book that turns pain into purpose and wounds into wisdom. Through raw storytelling and spiritual guidance, Jamie invites us to heal what we've hidden and embrace who we truly are. So, if you've ever felt too broken or it's too much, this is a reminder that you are not. You are rising. So let's celebrate the journey of the soul together with James today. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, awesome. So to kick this conversation started, why don't you give us introduce yourself, let us know who you are, and what inspired you to write this book.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and I do spiritual life coaching, and I'm also in the aesthetic business. So I kind of help people from the inside out, basically. And what inspired me to write the book is just wanting to share some of my personal journey. I've had to overcome a lot just to get where I'm at today. I
Mhm.
struggled with alcohol addiction. I struggled with, kind of numbing some of my trauma with cocaine and things that just really aren't very good for the soul in general. And I was able to kind of come out the other side of that. I've been sober for, it'll be 6 years actually on uh, New Year's Eve this year. So I'm very proud of that. And I just kind of wanted to be able to share parts of my story within my book to help other people so that they can understand that your past and things that you've gone through don't have to define who you are. You can outgrow that. You can transcend that. So my book talks a little bit about that. And in the beginning of the book, I go a bit about what exactly the soul is through different perspectives. So I spend a little bit of time in the very first part of that, just kind of going over what that means through basic, other religions, through Islam, through Kabbalah, through Christianity, pretty much everywhere, just to, we've all been trying to define exactly what that is. And then as I go through the book, there's a lot about journal prompting. My first book was a guided journal, so this kind of is a companion to that journal. And just to be able to kind of help others uncover their soul's true purpose. So it's a lot of like deep introspection and reflection. And I try to get my readers to really think and dig within themselves to uncover, their next chapter in their life.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm very much excited for you because I know that a lot of people will actually relate to what you've gone through before, and maybe, hopefully, there will be people that uh, this will be a tool, a help for them to get through the phase that they're going through and get to where you are right now.
Yeah.
So you talked about radical authenticity. How do you define that? And why is it important when it comes to healing?
Well, I think, for me personally, I struggled with finding my authentic self because
Mm,
so many of us tend to be pressured into being something that others think we should be. It's
mhm.
not just like family pressures, it's societal pressures. It's, even our own pressures based off the conditioning of those who raised us, And so I think it's really important to be able to be true to who you are. And then you live your life in alignment with what your soul's purpose truly is when you're able to do that. And, from experience, I didn't know who I was. I kept, feeling like something was not right. And, the more I started to be more true to myself and my own desires, the more I've started to kind of figure out who Jamie really is. And I think it's very important for each one of us to be able to do that and live from a place of our own truth and authenticity, because otherwise you're just going to keep getting met with a lot of resistance and life just seems to be a bit harder when you're not just being true to who you are.
That's true. That's true. And you know, knowing who you really are, I think it's the first step in seeing a different side of the world because you're not copying somebody else, you're not comparing yourself with somebody else. You're just being true to who you really are.
Yeah.
And it's your book actually is a very it's I find it very vulnerable. You've shared a lot of vulnerable stories, very intimate um, stories about yourself. What helped you find that courage to be so open and to be so and it's not always very easy. For one, I'd be reluctant in sharing these stories to other people, but you seem to be very so open about it, and it's very vulnerable, which I think it's a lot more relatable. But where'd you find that courage?
So I think that it's really easy for people who are this, the types to want to help others to kind of hide behind what their message is without actually really
Mm,
showing where they've come from. And I think it's
yes.
really important to have that vulnerability so that people can relate to it. I mean, we tend to idolize people, we tend to idolize celebrities, and the truth is behind the scenes we really don't know what their actual truth is because they're being
Mhm.
paid to say things or whatever. And for me, I'm putting out 100% of myself, the stuff that I'm not proud of, the things that at the time I thought were going to be the death of me, and just to be able to open up and just be deeply human. I think that it allows people to be able to relate a little bit more. And I'm not coming from a stance of where I'm like preaching from this higher authority. Started at the bottom and I literally, a lot of times clawed my way back up. So more times than I can even count. And
Mm,
I think that, it's just really important to show that side of myself so that people understand, life is not easy. And there's others out there who have way worse things that they've gone through than I have. And if I can just share that little bit of myself to maybe help someone who feels like they're stuck or there's no other way. I share a very personal story about a suicide attempt that I had, and
mm,
I think that there's so many people out there, especially young kids today, who feel like that might be their only option. And I just want
mm.
people to know that, even though you're facing those times, there is a way out. And the only way out is through. That's something that I say all the time, and I've heard it several times as well. And I just want to be a beacon to shine for other people who are in their darkness and they just maybe need someone that they can relate to help them on their way. So that's why I've shared some of the most you know deepest parts and my scars so that I could help others.
And I think that plays, that really shows your radical authenticity that this is me, this is what I've gone through, and that you don't, if you find anybody else finds themselves in that same situation, it doesn't have to be the end of it, right?
Right.
Because we can still celebrate out of where we've come from, and we can always go to where we want to go.
Yeah.
Earlier, you talked about the what the meaning of the soul is, and you've touched a lot of areas where it comes to spirituality. What do you think, or what role do you think spirituality plays in transforming our pain, the pain of our past, into power?
So I think that spirituality to each person is something completely different. And I think that it's important for you to find out what that means to you personally. Um, that's kind of why I did want to put a lot of different perspectives in there so that, I'm not just singling out one or the other. Um,
Mhm.
and my thoughts have changed radically actually over the last 20 or 30 years of my life. What I was raised a certain way. And I've just decided to kind of feel what resonates for me. And I think it's important for everyone to kind of decide that for themselves and just feel into what makes your heart feel lighter. And everyone kind of needs something to feel a sense of purpose. So to me, that's just whatever each individual feels is their what resonates with their soul, what makes them vibrate on a higher level and what makes them feel good and comfortable.
That's nice, and I actually believe that you have to find that place, that space where your vibration is vibrating positively, and it takes some time to get there, but that's a really it's a nice message, and it's a nice thing starting, if there's someone out there who's just starting in their healing journey, what would be the first step you would advise them to take?
I think the first step is to acknowledge that the place that you're at right now. Acknowledge where
Mhm,
you're at now, because it's not where you were before. And once you can get honest with yourself about your needs and where you want to go, that's the
mhm,
first step into healing. But when we deny it, when we don't listen to our own intuition, it sets us off course and it makes for a lot harder of a learning process. So the more you can be radically honest with yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
mhm.
It's not their journey, it's yours. So yeah, that first step in healing is starts within. All of the answers that you are looking for are already within you. You just have to be able to bring that out.
That's wonderful. And I agree to that. So if there's anything that you would like for your readers to take away after reading your book, after going through this journey with you, what do you think that would be?
I think, it's it's a little bit cliche, but we want to say like, diamonds are formed under pressure. And I just want everyone to know that the big takeaway is it just really doesn't matter like where you've been in your life and the things that you've done. You can move forward. Tomorrow
Mhm.
is another day, and it's never too late to start again. Take it from me. I've done it. So I've started over many times in my life, and it's an ongoing journey. And anytime we think that our soul growth is done, something else comes up and shows us that we're still on a journey, and it's never ending. We're constantly growing and evolving. And yeah, I just kind of want everyone to take away what everything means for them to step into their own authenticity and their own power and to find their voice and know that keep going. It doesn't matter what life throws at you. You can still overcome everything when you put your mind to it.
That's true. You're not really done until you're done. So
Exactly.
you keep going, and well, thank you so much for pouring your heart out. Thank you for sharing, yourself to everyone out there, and that there is power in the pain that we've gone through. We doesn't have to be just pain. We can turn it into power through healing. So,
Yeah.
journey
If
of
we
my
don't feel
soul.
the pain, we don't know what it's like to feel the pleasure or the happiness in life. You have to have both. You can't just have one or the other. You don't appreciate it. So
That's
we grow
true.
through that.
That's true. It's just finding that courage in recognizing that and start your healing journey. Right? Awesome, awesome, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
The journey of my soul is a gift to anyone ready to heal, awaken, and step into their truth. So, to all of our listeners out there, the ebook is officially available today on Amazon. Congratulations, Jamie. And if
Thank you.
you're ready to begin your own path to self discovery and empowerment, this is the guide your soul has been waiting for. So grab your copy right now, open your heart, and let your healing journey begin. Thanks, everyone. Until next
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Bye.